Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
WMAL.
6:07, it's O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in to a busy Wednesday morning. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Look at you, Julie. You're fired up today.
I am. You know, anytime we get to talk about Jake Tapper.
Coming up at 6:35, Cal Thomas will be our guest. 7:05, J. Christian Adams on a voter fraud case in Pennsylvania that he is tracking down like a hound dog. And then at 8:35, Molly Hemingway has some thoughts on Jake Tapper and the media's complicit behavior in covering up Joe Biden's true mental capacity. And now, it truly is a French kiss that Jake Tapper is going to try to get rich off of a book about it.
Yeah, God.
It's amazing. That's all coming up. Right now, here, if we could turn to the world of sports, because a huge development happened yesterday. And the way the news cycle goes these days, something this big would normally have just sort of plastered across all media platforms. In a weird way, it didn't get enough attention at all. Major League Baseball made a huge announcement. They lifted the ban on Hall of Fame consideration for, well, most notably Pete Rose and shoeless Joe Jackson of the infamous Black Sox team that was involved in receiving money from gamblers to throw the World Series. They're now eligible for the Hall of Fame. And joining us right now is John Condit. Now, he was a sportscaster for ABC Dayton, Ohio. He's president of Cradle Concepts. And you're an Ohio baseball fan, so you loved Charlie Hustle. You loved Pete Rose, part of the Big Red Machine, and you actually got to interview. Weren't you one of the last interviews that Pete Rose did, John?
Indeed. Good morning. It was September 20th, and I was desperately seeking a full studio sit-down interview with Pete Rose for a documentary film that we're working on, and 10 days later, he passed away, which was unbelievable. But I'll tell you, tonight there's going to be 40,000 fans at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. It's Pete Rose night. My extended family has almost 50 tickets. We knew it was going to be a good night. It's now going to be a fantastic night based on what's developed.
It's huge. And during that interview, did obviously this had to come up. What was Pete's sort of state of mind there with regard to his status with Major League Baseball and the potential for this ban to be lifted?
Well, Pete said he had come to the conclusion that he would get into the Hall of Fame once he died. His exact words, 10 days before. And he said in so many words, that's wrong. You get into the Hall of Fame for your family. You get into the Hall of Fame for your fans. What good is it going to be if they do this after I die? And so I asked him, I said, are you bitter about this? He's like, I'm not bitter. I screwed up. But clearly, he wanted to be in the Hall of Fame when he was still alive. And I'm really happy for his family, Pete Jr., Fawn, his kids, and it's really special, and I give a lot of credit, and I thank President Trump. I think he's used his bully pulpit to put some pressure on the commissioner. They met 3 Wednesdays ago, less than a month ago, and now he's reinstated, which is the first big step to him hopefully getting into the Hall of Fame as the hit king for Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I have to say my husband is from Ohio and a huge Pete Rose fan. I mean, he had a bumper sticker when I met him on his car that said Reinstate Pete. He is a huge fan of Pete Rose. But I agree with you. This is really sad that, Billy Cunningham, a great radio guy in Ohio, said murderers get parole much faster than Pete. And I understand, that he did something wrong, but I still don't understand why they waited for him to die to give him this honor. It's just something that I don't think fans understand either. You mentioned this means a lot to the fans. Well, it would have meant a lot to the fans to see Pete see this while he was still alive. Have there been any statements on that or any reasoning? I just don't understand what changed aside from his death.
Yeah, Julie, that is a great question. And on a lighter side note, I was 23 years old in 1989, and I did a commentary on a TV station here in Dayton back when I was on air. And I said that if Pete doesn't get into the Hall of Fame, I will personally padlock the doors of Cooperstown. And thank God I may not have to do that now. But I'm so glad that I'm not going to have to go to jail at this point by doing that. But,
Dude, just so you know, if I had to live up to every stupid thing I said when I was in my early 20s, I wouldn't be here today, I promise. So it's all good. You're fine.
Right on. But, it's going to be interesting to see how the family reacts. I know that stadium's going to be incredible tonight.
Yeah.
Pete Rose broke Ty Cobb's record, Julie and Larry, back on September 11th, 1985. Mm-hmm. The night before he did that, the pitcher, Eric Shaw of the Padres, asked me to sneak him out of the stadium. He did not want to be part of that historic moment. He died in a drug rehab center at the age of 37. And this film documentary that's coming out this fall that we're working on would have been not quite the story without getting Pete. So we got that interview. And the interesting thing is, I said to Pete, Pete, if you could do it all over again, would you play it differently? And he said no. He said, I thought I was going to get away with it. And so to answer your question, Julie, the fact that it took this long, maybe it's because Pete lied a long time about it. Then he wrote a book and made money off of it. But I come from the side of mercy and forgiveness. I think that's where President Trump is coming from when he talks about giving Pete a pardon. And you can go to a website called pardonpete.com and sign a petition for President Trump to make good on that promise, which I know he's going to do soon. But this is spectacular news. I understand those that say, you know what, he still should not be in there. Bart Giamatti's son, the former commissioner who's now in his 60s, his son said, this is not good what's happening. But I understand both sides of the issue, but he's such a great baseball player.
Yeah.
More hits, more runs, more winning games. It's fantastic for millions and millions of baseball fans.
Yeah, and listen, I have some sympathy for people who are saying, listen, rules are rules, and these are the rules. Also, the punishment should fit the crime, especially in light, John Condit, of the fact that gambling is now a part of the daily conversation. Sports shows, Major League Baseball programs are sponsored by sports betting apps. You watch the game and you see an ad for sports betting in real time behind home plate while the pitch is being delivered. And the hypocrisy, it's like, okay, betting on games was illegal. You couldn't do it until Major League Baseball and the networks figured out a way that they could make money off of it, and now it's just fine.
That's such a great point, and Pete talked about that, man. Personally, I could not have those apps on my phone. I'd be in-game betting. I know my personality, and that's what's going on now. People are chasing their bets. We have so much to share in the months ahead and into 2026 on Pete's full interview. But yeah, he talked about that. He said, I was wrong. I screwed up. He said, but now betting's culture in baseball now. It's embraced by Major League Baseball. So, Commissioner Manfred made a decision. I think it's a great decision. I don't know what his motives were, but I'm grateful for it. Well, and it's going to be the biggest day ever in Cooperstown if this next shoe falls and he gets into the Hall of Fame.
There will not be a dry eye in the house at Great America Ballpark, that's for sure. And it's an exciting time for the game. The game needs some rejuvenation. It needs to make a connection to its past because it's been in the wilderness a bit. So maybe this will be part of what helps it. John Condit, excited to hear about the documentary. When it rolls out, please let us know. We'd love to have you back.
Hey, thanks so much, and have a great day. Appreciate being on.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Well, the Democrats just can't quit their love for illegal alien criminals and gang members who have now been arrested and or incarcerated and or deported. AOC wants in on it. She did one of her famous social media selfie videos. And as a sitting member of Congress, it sounds like she issued a threat here to law enforcement. By the way, just to follow up, this is in response to the scene outside that detention facility in Newark that we talked about yesterday, or was that Monday? It's all a blur now, where Democrats tried to storm through the fence and barge their way into a detention facility. They pushed federal agents from behind. One woman, it looks like she did an overhead punch and smash on one of these guys, pushing them all with their backs turned to them, by the way. So, sucker punching law enforcement officials. It's amazing that nobody got arrested at that moment other than the mayor of Newark, who had no business being in that building. Here's AOC issuing what can only be described as a threat to law enforcement.
And now what DHS is trying to say, again, they're using public intimidation because they know that they cannot come for us all. They know that they cannot come for us all. And recently what they said is that DHS is allegedly looking into arresting members of Congress who were showing up for their legal and constitutional obligation to conduct oversight. If anyone's breaking the law in this situation, it's not members of Congress, it's the Department of Homeland Security. It's people like Tom Homan and Secretary Kristi Noem. You lay a finger on someone, on Representative Bonnie Watson-Coleman, on Representative, or any of the representatives that were there, you lay a finger on them, we are going to have a problem. Because the people who are breaking the law are the people who are not abiding by it. And it is enshrined in the law that members of Congress who show up to ICE and CBP facilities are required to be granted access, legally required to be granted access. And they legally cannot be inhibited from accessing these facilities to conduct their constitutional obligation to investigate and conduct oversight. So if Kristi Noem wants to break the law, that's on her. But it sure as hell is not someone like Representative Robert Menendez that needs to be arrested. Okay?
Yeah, well, that's not entirely true. Yes, that's true. Members of Congress do have the right to access these facilities, but not on demand at any moment, showing up without any sort of prearrangements, and not to storm through the parking lot security gate while a bus is being brought in. What I'm hearing here, Julie Gunlock, is that they know they're in trouble. They know they broke the law, and now they're trying to saber rattle and try to keep any arrest from happening.
She, first of all, sounds insane. And she really does. And it's just angry and vicious. It is the role of Congress to oversee. They should do oversight, but there is a process. It is dangerous to just show up and expect to be given a tour where child rapists and murderers and the most violent of these illegal aliens are being held in these facilities. And it is disrespectful for law enforcement to just show up and expect to get a grand tour. Of course, they don't care about law enforcement, which explains why they're so obnoxious. But again, I am the biggest proponent of congressional oversight. I think it's been far too lax, but this is not the way it's done.
That's the amazing thing. Where were all of these congressional visits to these facilities under the Biden administration? They didn't care. Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader, yesterday at his press conference, also seemed to make a veiled, if not so veiled, threat to ICE if their members of Congress are arrested.
Statement the other day after there was this incident in Newark. You said they better not touch our members.
Correct.
What happens if they were to go and arrest these members, or if they would try to sanction them here in the House of Representatives?
They'll find out.
What would you do?
They'll find out.
But doesn't that broach a?
They'll find out.
Doesn't that go across?
That's a red line.
What's the red line, though? I mean, I know we have this.
It's a red line. It's very clear.
They'll find out. That's a red line. Wait, if they did in fact break the law, are they above the law? It doesn't matter, because he's not saying, hey, they didn't break the law. He's saying just don't arrest them. I thought no one was above the law.
Thought so. Wait, who is he? P. Diddy? I mean, what is this? They'll find out. It's so ridiculous.
We are becoming big fans of Tricia McLaughlin. She's the Assistant Secretary of Homeland Security. She does a lot of media appearances for them. She was on this show. I interviewed her when I was at the White House. She had this to say yesterday. This is cut 6.
Well, the problem would seem to be that those people may have been laying fingers or at least body slamming federal agents who were there. What do you say to the good Congresswoman?
I'd like to ask ask AOC, who does she want out of that detention facility? Is it the MS-13 members? Is it the known terrorists? Is it the child rapists? Is it the murderers? Who is she fighting for? Because she's not fighting for Americans. She's not fighting for American victims. And I'd like to lay out the facts. The fact that it was these 3 members of Congress who trespassed, broke the law, and stormed that ICE detention facility. They put law enforcement at risk. They put our detainees at risk. And
That's right. She's very good at this. I really like Tricia McLaughlin. And this is the bottom line here. As everybody gets lost in the details, the overriding image and message sent to the American people is Democrats are going to the mat, dying on the Hill, and drawing a line in the sand for criminals, for incarcerated criminals, and defying the law and defying law enforcement on behalf of criminal, illegal immigrants, and not for you and not the victims of those criminals. And they're never going to be able to override that. It's 6:24.
Coming up, it's Cal time. We've got a lot to talk about with Cal. Keep it here. It's 6:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
Well, look at that. It's your favorite morning show, O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here this Wednesday morning. We just talked about Pete Rose now with an opportunity to get into the Hall of Fame. We forgot to bring up the fact that these idiotic sports reporters might actually not vote for him because, you know, they know best. They're protecting the game. They're sports reporters. At 7:05, we'll talk to J. Christian Adams. He's following a case of some voter fraud in Pennsylvania that you're going to want to pay attention to. And then at 8:35, Molly Hemingway of The Federalist on Jake Tapper's new blockbuster discovery. Apparently, Joe Biden had some mental and physical challenges during his presidency. Who knew? How could any of us have known such things? It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. You know who else knew? Cal Thomas knew. Cal joins us now. Hey, Cal. Good morning.
Good morning, dynamic duo. Always a pleasure to be with you.
Hey, listen, the scene of President Trump in the Middle East is fascinating to watch, and he's certainly taking a different approach. He's sending a different message to those countries, and he's certainly trying to appeal to their love of commerce and business and money, for that matter, and he might be the right man to deliver that message. Although I have concerns about him not actually being as suspicious as I wish he was for countries like Qatar and the new leadership in Syria. And I'm just wondering from your perspective, Cal, especially the story of this plane and stuff, which, again, I think a lot of it is not really a controversy, except for the fact that Boeing can't deliver a plane anymore.
Yeah.
But, I don't know if we should take any gifts from Qatar considering their role in the Middle East and terrorism.
Larry, you're absolutely right. Qatar has contributed over almost $2 billion to Hamas in Gaza. These people are when I say these people, I'm talking about most of these nations in the Middle East are so rich they don't need to make any investments. They're making money off oil. They made it off oil for years and selling it to the West and to Russia and to everybody else. I think that we are being very, very stupid in dealing with some of these people. Doha, for example, has been investing billions of dollars in U.S. education, from K to 12 to universities to some of the outfits on K Street in Washington. They're buying influence. They're not doing this because they want Donald Trump to succeed or Americans to be better off. They're intellectually and otherwise infiltrating the United States. You're exactly right about this. And with shekels come shackles.
Well, Cal, I wanted to also ask you about this Syrian sort of dropping the sanctions on Syria. The current Syrian government is sanctioning the mass killings of minorities in Syria. And I think in the past, the U.S. has tied the relieving of sanctions to a government demonstrating that it's protecting these minorities, or at the very least, not killing them. Are you concerned about lifting these sanctions when the violence and the killings are still happening?
Well, I am, Julie, and that's a good point. This guy, the new head of the Syrian government, has been described by some as a terrorist in a suit. This is he's still on the terrorist list at the U.S. State Department. This is great leverage to keep these sanctions on until he demonstrates a change of direction from the previous Assad regime. You don't lift a sanction without getting some kind of concession or demonstration in return. I keep remembering Margaret Thatcher's great line that we in the West make a mistake when we transpose our morality on those who do not share it. The Middle East is a snake pit. It is completely different in its way of thinking from the United States and from other Western nations.
Yeah, and it's just as wrong as the other approach that we took for decades, which was nation building and imposing American Western-style democracy on civilizations that weren't quite ready for it and didn't know how to use it. Cal, if I can make you shift topics real fast, because I've gotten a peek at your column for tomorrow, and it has to do with the president's plan here on prescription drugs, and there's brilliant politics behind it, but I haven't quite seen the details where the devil lies. Have you?
Well, there's a couple of hurdles. First, Congress is going to have to get involved in this. Bernie Sanders has already put out a statement. He and the Democrats, but especially Sanders, have been jawboning this issue for many, many years. And he says, "I'm ready to make a deal with the president. We can get this done in 3 weeks if Congress will come along, the rest of Congress." But look, here's the problem. We all know this. The research and development that is required by the FDA to bring a drug to market is huge. It costs a ton of money. We pay that money. Other nations don't pay that money. So one of the ways to equalize this is to take some of that money that is spent on research and development and make the European and other nations pay for some of it. This would equalize, a word the president likes, the cost of drugs. Let's just take Ozempic, for example, a very popular drug that's used to has side effects for weight loss, but is used mostly for diabetes treatment. $936 it costs Americans, but in Japan it's $169. That's ridiculous. With 58 million Americans can't even afford prescription medications. So the president's on the right track on this. Getting the details on how to do it is the problem, and you can bet that Big Pharma is going to file lawsuits.
Cal, Kennedy Center has Porgy and Bess at the end of the month. A huge operatic production of the incredible Gershwin classic. You wanna come up here and hang out with me?
Well, I did meet the original Porgy from. He used to teach voice in Washington to prospective singers.
Really?
This is one of the reasons I have such a great voice. There's so many great songs in that. There really is.
To hear the National Opera along with that incredible orchestra play that music, I can't wait for it.
It's great stuff, and it shows you what happens now with the Trump administration taking over entertainment at the Kennedy Center. It's just going to get better and better.
I'll tell you, I went to see Mahler's Six this last weekend. I mean, it's sort of, honestly, it's pretty fantastic to see the incredible works of Western civilization presented on our national stage there at the Kennedy Center. It is an experience that can't be beat.
Yep, no prettier theater anywhere. Great place.
Thanks, Cal.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
Governor Westmore wants to be president of the United States, and he just signed a bunch of bills into law in Maryland out of this disastrous session in Annapolis. Let's do the bad news first. Here's WMAL's Heather Curtis yesterday reporting on this horrific story about money being used for abortions. Cut 8, please.
The Department of Health will give the money to abortion providers to make abortions accessible to underinsured and uninsured women.
Maryland will always be a safe haven for abortion access. Now we write the next chapter in our work to protect and defend basic health care rights.
The Maryland Right to Life director told the Baltimore Sun the law targets poor women and their babies for abortion violence. Heather Curtis on WMAL and WMAL.com.
Thank you, Heather. It's ghoulish is what it is, and the euphemisms of abortion access. And abortion access, this is taking our tax dollars and paying for people to kill their unborn babies. To use the term safe haven is just despicably diabolical in this context.
Yeah, and they also cast it as just basic health care. This is murdering your child. It's sickening.
But if you want to be the Democrat nominee for president, this is the kind of thing you have to do.
Yes.
This is what gains you favor with that party. All right, so that's the bad. And here's the good news. I think maybe the one thing that I can agree with Wes Moore on, they will, effective June 1st, the official cocktail of the state of Maryland will be the Orange Crush.
I am unfamiliar with this cocktail. Have you had this?
I have. I'll tell you, this is a typical of Andrew Breitbart's old axiom that politics is downstream from culture. The Orange Crush became the Maryland state cocktail many, many, many years ago. You don't need legislature to codify it. And it was actually introduced to me by my friend and former colleague, Amber Athey, now Amber Duke. It is. They go down very fast in the summertime.
Well, I bet. What is it?
It is vodka and orange juice and Sprite.
It's a mimosa with Sprite. Okay, got it.
No, a mimosa is champagne.
Oh wait, what did you say? Oh, no, a screwdriver. Sorry, screwdriver.
It's a screwdriver with Sprite.
Yeah.
And it tastes like orange soda. And when it's hot out and you're on a boat on the Chesapeake Bay or on the Severn or the South River, it is. They go down really fast. And you're sitting there floating in the river, enjoying the sun, enjoying fun with friends. You're drinking your Orange Crushes. And then when it's time to stand up and walk around, you can't. And it's a great drink.
And then you blame it on. Oh, sorry. You blame it on seasickness, right?
Yeah. That's right, seasickness. Got to get my sea legs. That's the problem.